gorgeous faces. It's so nice to have everyone here. We are going to have a stunning call. I have so much I want to talk to Caryl about, just because looking at your website is like diving into an adventure. It's, I mean, you've got so many juicy things that I want to ask you. And I'd like to start with 10-year-old Caryl. Oh, and Nancy knows the gig, some of the guests, but just in case you haven't been on a call, if you have any questions, I've asked Caryl to ignore the chat, but please, the more interaction, the better. Feel free to throw it in the chat and I will ask Caryl through the call. Okay, hit us
Okay.
with 10-year-old Caryl. Where were you? What was life like? What were you thinking, doing, passionate about?
Oh, you know, I have had not just a complicated childhood, but a complicated adulthood. So at 10 years old, I was living in Fresno, California.
Oh my God, that's where I'm from.
No way.
Oh, that's
No
weird. And our
way.
birthdays are 2 days apart. And we're
Well,
both
but many years apart,
expats.
many years apart, but 2 days apart. The best people are from Fresno because we get out as soon as
It's
possible.
fast. I was just telling someone that this morning. You spend all like the years up until 18 trying to decide LA or San Francisco,
Yeah, pretty
which you're
much.
going to get out.
Yeah. I didn't have to make that decision, but I just knew that I didn't want to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 10 years old, very much a tomboy, loved and still do learning. I love learning. I hate school. And it wasn't until a year ago, 2 years ago, that I learned why I hated school. But at that stage, I was outdoors. I would, if I wasn't in my parochial school uniform, you know, the green plaid with the gray blazer and the white
Ah,
Peter
see.
Pan shirt. If I wasn't wearing that, I was barefoot wearing my dad's, what an old dress shirt of my dad's that would come down to my knees, maybe, and either shorts or jeans and barefoot and running outside wild. So I had hobbit feet. During the summer, I could run miles with the dog through fields and orchards
Oh,
and
that's lovely.
barefoot and not feel the stickers or the bee stings or anything. So completely unsupervised,
Happy?
not particularly happy, but not particularly unhappy
Okay.
because I didn't know. I I knew that I knew that I didn't have a normal family life. I was not, strictly speaking, abused, but I also knew that what I did have, which I loved, was not correct because I had no supervision. If I went to school, it was because I got to school. If I didn't go to school, it's because I wanted to read something that day and stayed home.
Wow. Wow. Has that made you an independent person your whole life because of
A
that?
little bit overly independent, and I think that's honestly, I think that's affected my love relationships over the years. I think that's been a um, I'm a therapist, so you know, I analyze things. And I'm a writer, so I analyze things. I think that it affected me because I am so independent that I don't necessarily know how to not be, how to be dependent on someone. I
But
just
do you
don't.
think you'd want to be the other way? Because I put my back out the other day. I mentioned to somebody before the call, I said, oh, I can't really move. And they're like, why? And I said, I moved a heavy bed today. And they're like, why didn't you wait and ask your husband? And the thought like never occurred to me. But
Yeah,
honestly, would you want to trade and be the other way around?
I think there's got to be some middle ground, don't you think?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm the same way I do things. I just um so the 10-year-old girl was very independent, very much a tomboy. Um,
Oh, I love 10-year-old Carol.
and I was at least a full child size taller than everyone else that I knew
Oh,
that was
that
my
must have
age.
been hard at school.
So it's, yeah, so I was called giraffe and any number of other things, but I didn't, it's hard to explain, but it didn't hit me the way it would hit most people because didn't have the relationship of belonging to anything to begin with. So I
So
didn't
you didn't
feel,
have a comparison.
if you don't belong to anything ever, you have no understanding of what ostracism or not belonging means because you're already
Wow.
just
Yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
And and so that's the 10-year-old. I'm going to expand on your question a little bit. When I was 12, a lot happened between 10 and 12. When I was 12, I
Oh,
had the very first apartment in San Francisco.
when you were, wait, when you were 12,
Yes.
how did that happen?
My father died, and a year later, mourning period, my mother remarried and they wanted to live alone.
Oh,
So they got
wow.
me an apartment on the same floor as their apartment in San Francisco, but not with them.
That's kind of a 12-year-old's dream and also kind of scary.
Yeah, but see, I never had any supervision. Once my nanny
So,
passed away when I was very young, I had no supervision. Um, Nobody, and I always knew that my whole life, just show up where you're supposed to show up and everybody will leave you alone for the rest of the time.
wow.
So, so yeah, I have a very complex childhood, but not an unhappy one, just a very unusual one.
But complex is good because all those puzzle pieces, and that's why I ask the 10-year-old question, those puzzle pieces go into forming the human being. And
Yeah.
it's like those china cups with the cracks. I am so bored if somebody is perfect. I want to see the human being with the 8 zillion china pieces, the
Yeah.
journey that from there to here, the how people create and form a beautiful mind that's able to write a book like you've written many books, but in particular, the one that I'm familiar with, a book like yours didn't come from a child living in the suburbs with Barbies.
Well, I did have Barbie. I loved Barbie. Barbie did many, many adventures. Not very
Yeah, but
Barbie-like
you
ones,
know what
but
I'm saying, though.
yeah, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the 12-year-old in her own apartment in San Francisco went into that book as well.
Well, yeah, this book, the book you're talking about, A Brush with Mortality, which was released actually on this day last year.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Thank you. That book came from a very special place. So what my childhood and my life experience, what that's done with my writing is I don't write big male characters. I write male characters, but that my focus is on flawed but very strong, complex female characters. And that this and so that's the protagonist in A Brush with Mortality. I also realized that unconsciously I keep writing female characters that have a mental health problem. So my
Do
current
you,
work in
do you know
progress,
why? Do you know
I have
why?
no clue. I have no clue, except I think they're interesting, and nobody
Yeah,
ever writes positive mental health characters.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I have this empathy towards that, I think, which may be why I became a therapist. I don't know quite what that is. I've had a lot of life experience with people that had a variety of different mental health and emotional health challenges. And I think they don't get a fair shake in fiction or in life. So writing a character that has that kind of challenge and not making it the central point of the story, right? It's just part of their character, it's part of their world.
yeah.
And then there's the story, right? Um, but this book came from my experience as a young woman. I was born with a immune system issue. You've all heard of the boy in the bubble, right? Well,
Oh,
I was the girl that should have been in a bubble, but I wasn't. I was out running around outside, and I didn't like being inside except to read. Um, but I mostly read outside too. So I was sick most of my childhood and all of my adulthood, and even to now, I have things that happen because of that immune system issue. But in in that time when this book starts, in the prologue, um, in San Francisco, where I was living, I had just graduated from college in Berkeley and Oakland with a BFA and an MFA in art history and color theory and different art stuff. I was working in the fashion industry, high-end fashion industry. I had a tremendous number of gay friends, and I bought a house in San Francisco that was right on the edge of Castro Street in San Francisco. So I was in the hospital, and I was put on a ward in a hospital in San Francisco, UC Medical Center. They had this ward they had set up. It was very dark, and they put people that they didn't know what was wrong with them. They put on that ward, right? Because they didn't
Mm.
have a category to put them in. And I ended up there, and I was the only woman, and I was the only one that was ambulatory. So I would walk around with my little IV pole, and I would visit all the very young men who had no one else visiting them that had this mystery disease.
Mm.
And that was the very, very beginning of AIDS. And I
Yeah.
would sit with these young men that had no one else coming to see them, right? And that didn't last very long. They died very quickly. And that moved me greatly. It impacted me tremendously because the result of that horrid, horrid epidemic was that research was done into immune issues. And
Mm.
because of the research done around HIV and AIDS, I was able to be, and DNA and all that, that I was able to be diagnosed of why was I always sick. They were able to see that it was a DNA issue. They were able to see that it was an immune system issue, right? Um, I'm alive today because of all of those young men that died. And so this particular novel is my very twisted thank you to
Yeah.
them. So that's where that novel came from. It came from the loss that I had of people that I worked with in the fashion industry and in the art. It came from where I lived, and it came from that experience in the hospital and the result of my being able to be taken care of because of their sacrifice.
But you can tell because every word holds the weight of your soul. There's nothing randomly put in there for the purpose of plot. But can I move you back a little bit?
Sure.
It's how did you, not having learned this from your parents, being on your own, how did you grab success, get the degree, get the apartment, take care? How did you take care of yourself?
Well, they
Did you,
got
were
me the
you,
apartment. They didn't want to get arrested for child neglect.
no,
They
but after that, like going on in life, moving on in life, how did you have the practical day by day confidence, not just skills, but confidence that you were a person able to move the world,
I,
and because that's what you did. And I found it difficult. I found it quite difficult and challenging
yeah.
having the confidence to do that. How did you do it?
I think in part I'm of a generation that girls went to school to went to college to find a husband, and you got a teaching degree as a fallback in case you didn't get married. Or you became a secretary. That was the fallback, right? That was what you were supposed to do, and that was the road you were supposed to go down. My family was very influential. I don't want to get into that too much, but you know how people talk about the Masons and people that run the world.
Yeah.
My dad was that.
Okay. So,
My stepdad, not my dad, but my stepdad. And so I came from a family that felt they had the right to control literally everything. And they even, when I was 18, tried to do an arranged marriage with a Belgium tennis player that his parents didn't know he was gay. I met him and knew that he was gay within the first 30 seconds, but no one else knew he was gay. Um, because it was a business and political arrangement. And so
Wow.
he and we became friends because we both knew it was an absurd thing that was going on and we both rejected it. Okay, so to answer your question, all of these rules and expectations and behaviors were set before me, but I had never been structured into them because I had been ignored and left to my own devices. So when anyone tells me what I have to do, I do exactly the opposite. So you have to get married and do this. I go, no, no, I'm going to go over here and do that instead. And I don't think that's necessarily confidence. I think it's just being stubborn and obstinate and contrary.
They got you there in the end, though. If it works, use it. So, so I know it's a convoluted path, and from your bio and your website, it looks like there were a lot of twists and turns. Um, were you moving in one direction purposefully? Were you, I'm going to be an author? Or were you just taking life as it was put in front of you and grabbing it with gusto?
I have done art and written since I was old enough to hold a pencil in my hand. I have written stories since before I even remembered learning to read and write. I remember making stories and art. And I got art degrees. I have more degrees than a person should have because I get bored and go back to school and learn something new. I still do art, but I'm not a very good artist. I like my stuff, but that's as far as it goes. I think I'm a very good writer. And I spent a lot of time writing I think I sold my first romance novel to oh gosh, it's a Penguin thing, really old school. I don't even know they exist anymore, but old romance publishers, right? And I think I was
How did
18.
it feel? How did it feel when you sold
To
that first
sell it,
book?
it wasn't very dramatic actually, because there was a formula back in the day, not just tropes and things like we have now. No, when you signed on with, oh gosh, what
Like
is the name?
Harlequin.
That's it. That's it. Thank you.
Harlequin. Yeah, because I remember
Harlequin.
there was a specific formula you just followed and filled
Oh,
in
it
the
was
blank
so
spots.
specific that you had, okay, they can have their first kiss and it has to be on this page.
Yes. Yep. I remember
Right?
that.
And you can do this. And so I wrote one romance novel and they published it. And then I spent the next 2 years writing romance novels, but I never wrote another book. I just changed the names, the locations, the eye and hair color. And it was the same story exactly over and over again. Of course, then you were typing things, right? It wasn't computer. I'm old for those of you that don't know. I'm old. And so I was typing. I didn't get to just cut and paste. Boy, that would have been great. I could have been so prolific if I could have just cut and paste. Do a search for hair color. Yeah. But I just retyped the same story over and over again with different location, different hair and eye color, and different names.
So it
And
was like AI before AI became
yeah,
AI.
almost. Yeah. I often refer to myself as the monkey in the room that was typing. But that was how I started, and so I wasn't writing art. I was just I was trying to make a living without having to get a real job, sort of thing, right? Because I was a hippie, I was in San Francisco. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. God, I'm jealous of those the hippie days. I would have made a great hippie. All the
You would
outfits,
have. I agree with you. You would have made a great
the
hippie.
sunflowers. I've got the hat with the orange sunflower. I've got it. I've got the gig, the get up. Okay, so how I want to jump forward a little bit to how you
Okay.
ended up being an expat living in a stable. Like, how did that happen?
I everything that has happened to me since I chose Portugal, that's the one thing I did is I chose Portugal. Everything that's happened to me since then has just been kind of given to me by Portugal without my real violation. You know,
What made you choose Portugal?
I needed to find a place that I could afford to live because of many reasons. Uh, I I needed to find a place that felt like home, a community that felt like home. I think it might be a better way to say that. And there were a few places in the United States that fit that bill, but the expense was too much. Um, I was looking for where to be. So I retired from my work as a CEO of a nonprofit, and I waited for my dog to pass away, which sounds horrible, but I used to say as soon as the dog dies, I'm going to travel. And she did finally. She lived a very long life and she was quite happy life. So as soon as she died, I got rid of everything I owned, and everything that I kept could fit into my Subaru Outback.
That's a great feeling. Isn't that a great feeling?
Yeah, and then I traveled for 4 years. I traveled within the US and I traveled in Europe. And I've always traveled. My whole life I've traveled, but this was different because I wasn't going on business and I wasn't going on vacation. I was just
Yeah,
going.
yeah.
So I always stayed in homes. I did pet sitting. So I'd go in and I'd be living in a neighborhood, I'd be taking care of pets, I'd be learning the neighborhood, meeting people, not doing touristy things necessarily. And I did that in the US and in Europe for 4 years.
How
And I
did you get the jobs if you're new to the place? How do you
Oh,
get a pet sitting
there's
job?
websites for digital nomads to do this. It's
Oh, that's
I
cool.
use one called Nomador. So you sign up and you write your little bio and you tell what kind of animals you like to take care of, and people then give you their home and for free, and you take care of their animals, and they usually tip you a little bit of money afterwards. And you have and you're in a place. So like I spent a
Wow.
winter in the countryside of France and taking care of three dogs and a some gypsy horses. It was in the middle of nowhere. Um,
Wow.
and I had lots of cool, wonderful experiences, but I was also what I was doing is I was dipping my toe into these different environments, and I kept coming back to Portugal, which had not been on my radar at all. I knew nothing about Portugal, but I kept coming back, and so I ended up choosing here. It was the right choice. When I first came to Portugal, I did not have my residency visa yet. You have to get a residency visa to live in a European country. But I was in the process of getting it, and I came over to set up my apartment, and I arrived, and 2 days later, COVID arrived, and 3 days after I arrived, so the next day, they shut down the entire government, everything shut down, the government, the airports, everything shut down, and I was in Portugal for all of COVID without a visa.
I think I remember you telling me this. Yeah,
But the
yeah.
lovely thing about Portugal is as soon as this happened, Portugal said everyone that is standing on Portuguese soil is a Portuguese citizen, which means you have access to all of the services and you have to follow all of the rules.
That's lovely.
And it was just lovely. And I was in this beachside surfer town. Everybody was a yoga instructor or a surfing instructor, and then there was me. Um,
Yeah, but that's those are times when, right? Don't you think it's a time that you take a sidestep into becoming a new person when you
yeah,
put yourself in a situation where everything's different and then
Yeah.
you
And so
become different?
it was like if you're going to get stuck in a pandemic somewhere, the Silver Coast of Portugal is probably one of the best places to be.
Wow.
Um, because people drove by in their trucks with vegetables they were giving away because they couldn't sell them. And
Wow.
and fruit, and the bread trucks would come by with their cheese and the bread, and you could walk in the hills and talk to neighbors over the fence without problems and all that. So, and of course, as a writer, I loved being left alone, not having to anyone bothering me because I could just sit there and work. Um, when things opened up and we were able to travel at all, a friend of mine hopped in her car, came and picked me up and said, we're going on a road trip. And we did, because we hadn't gotten to see any of Portugal. We had been locked up the whole time, right? And when we did that road trip, she said, we have to go to Tomar, which is where I live now. It's a medieval city. It is where the Templars had their headquarters.
Wow.
It was founded as the New Jerusalem by the guy that stole it from the Moors. There's a lot of history here. And we came here because there's a French bakery and we could get a French croissant. And so we loaded up the car with every kind of French pastry there is. And nothing was open except the pastry shop, the store, Nelson's place. And we drove out of town and pulled off the side of the road and proceeded to sit for an hour and a half eating so much pastry. Just crazy.
You came for the pastry, you stayed
We
for
came for the
the
pastry. We conquered the pastry. I didn't even know, we were here so briefly, I didn't even know there was a river here. Nothing was open, so we didn't see the convento. We didn't see anything. We just got pastries and ate them a few miles down the road. And so then later, when it was time for me to think, I had to go back to the United States when the embassies opened so that I could get my actual visa. And I had to find a new place to live because my lease was up in the place I had been. And I knew that I didn't want to live in that town as much as I loved it. It wasn't the right spot for me. A little too full of, I wanted to be more Portuguese, and it was very European and young surfers and yoga and all that, which is lovely, but it wasn't what I wanted. So one of the places I started looking was Tomar. And while I was in the States getting my visa, I got this email from a real estate agent that said, I found your house. And I said, I'm not looking for a house. I'm looking for an apartment. He goes, no, no, I found your house. And I said, yeah, but I'm not buying. And he goes, no, no, it's for rent, blah, blah, blah. And he sent me some pictures and I'm going, there's no kitchen. And he goes, well, they'll fix that. Very Portuguese. They'll fix it. Yeah, they'll put a kitchen in. Yeah, okay. So I agreed to a 1-year lease, sight unseen, on this place because it came to me. I didn't actually make a decision. I just went with it. And I got here and there was no kitchen. There was a huge walk-in fireplace with an iron bar and a huge iron chain that on the bottom of which was a giant iron cauldron. And that was the kitchen. I was supposed to cook over an open fire in my cauldron, which I admit appeals to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from other things on your website, it seems like that.
But not every day. The electricity didn't work because the wiring had been put in 1996 and it was so out of code and so fragile. The plumbing, the water couldn't be turned on because the pipes were so old from 1996 that the water meters and all of that didn't fit on the pipes.
Wow.
And this house it was a stable 800 years ago. It was built at the same time that the Convento de Cristo was built. So it's stone and ginormous slabs of granite. And it was a stable. So where I'm sitting right now is the ground floor and my bedroom and office are where the horses were.
How cool is it though? I bet that it's like, were you just like,
And then, yeah, and so then the first floor above the ground floor is where the stable guy would have lived, which is why the fireplace is up there, right? And they did put in a stovetop and an oven for me, and they did buy a large European style refrigerator. I didn't want an American style one. And they did end up getting me an IKEA island at my request, and they let me configure everything to create an actual kitchen. And then above that floor, so that's kitchen, living room, dining room, all in one big open space. And then above that, there's 2 rooms, one of which is I call the cat's room. It's where you put your suitcases and the kitty litter box and the cat food and everything else.
the spare room kind of thing?
And then the other room, that's the guest room. And so I have a guest room on the very top. And that would have been where the hay and the grain and the tack had been kept.
That's so cool.
And in 1996, this amazing gentleman, Carlos, oh, Rosey Carlos. It's a hyphenated name. He's considered apparently one of the top architectural artists that has ever existed in Europe.
Wow.
And he's Portuguese, and he bought several ruins here in Tumar. His family's from Tumar, and he redid them. And he redid this place into a house in 1996. But what he did is he made it into a house with as little change to the original configuration as possible.
Okay, if there was ever a place for a haunting, this would be it.
And my front yard is a gigantic plaza. They put up big stages and have rock concerts in front of my house. And then my backyard is the Mata de Sete Montes, the Park of Seven Mountains. And
Wow.
it's got a formal garden. Damsel, a movie, Netflix movie called Damsel was filmed there and in the convento. And that's my backyard where
And
I walk my dog.
when you moved into this place and you had to sign a year's lease, was it a
Yes.
matter of, okay, I know I've got enough that no matter what, I'll be able to afford this for a year? Or was it a matter of, I'm in this
Oh,
small Portuguese town, I'll just figure out a way to make money?
no, my rent is so low because nobody else would live in this place.
Oh, okay, because that would be
I
my
mean, it had
fear.
a cauldron for a kitchen, right? So
Okay, that would be
my
my
rent was
fear
very low.
though.
And I couldn't live here for a month. I had to stay with someone else, and I came every day while the electricians and plumbers got to work. And then it finally got to a point where I could live in it. After that year, I signed a 3-year lease, and I just recently signed another 5-year lease with the daughter who inherited, because my landlady died at 105 2 years
So
ago.
it's properly home now. It's home.
I'm going to stay here. I've told my landlady I'm going to stay here as long as I can carry groceries up the stairs, because there is 3 flights of stone granite stairs that I have to go up and down.
Yeah. You don't think about we moved here and I laughed. I remember laughing when they said, but it's got no lift. But it's like the perfect I'm like 3 flights of stairs, so what?
Yeah,
Not laughing so much anymore. I hurt my knee and I couldn't walk. And I thought, oh my God, they're gonna have to take me out of here in a forklift.
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so you're in this idyllic place. Did you start writing your novel while you were living here?
I
Or had you
actually
started?
started it quite a while back, and then it got set aside for a whole lot of reasons. Some of the medical, I've had, like I said, I have this immune thing, so I get impacted by medical things frequently, and that stalls out stuff for me. Um, but it also enhances things. So it's it's a it's like a blessing and a curse, I think it's.
But what's the healthcare? Is the healthcare okay in
Oh, the
Portugal?
healthcare is marvelous here. It's
Is
just
it?
amazing here. It's better than anything I've ever experienced in the US. And one of the reasons I couldn't buy, and one of the reasons I had to find a place that was cheap to live, is I am one of those people that I lost my entire twice. I lost all of my retirement money, all of my investments, everything to the medical system. And that's with having Medicare and really, really good insurance.
That's so scary.
So I ended up with the last time I was in Virginia. I was in the hospital for 3 months. I had 2 surgeries, but I was in hospital for 3 months. And when I was done, I literally had the money that was in my wallet when I went to the emergency room. That was all I had left. They had
But
taken everything else. And that's
if
with
they had
really
if they
good
had known you
insurance.
had that money in your wallet, they would have taken that
They
too.
might have tried to get it. Yeah.
They would-
So I will always work at something until I can't. I needed to find a place. I needed to rent, and I needed to find a place that I could afford. I'm really happy now that I didn't buy and couldn't buy. I'm really happy about that. There's a sense of freedom that I realize I really appreciate, and I have such a great relationship with my landlady. So she's letting me do anything I want with the house because she knows I respect it.
Mm.
So I'm having fun, and I know you can relate to this, Daniel. I'm having fun with color.
Oh, yes, I can relate.
So, one of the rules here is that a house of this age and with the stature of who the architect was and where it's located and all this stuff, right? And a few other things. Um, you can only paint the interior white. That's it, white.
Hmm.
Um, so when my landlady, who lives in Lisbon, and she's an art teacher at a university in Lisbon, she came to visit and we came to talk about the lease and stuff. And she thinks we're sisters of the heart, which I love that term. Um, and and we were talking about how the interior really needed painting, right? And I pulled out, those little card paint sample things you can get.
Yeah.
I pulled out this light green that I had, and I said, "What do you think of this greenish white?" And God bless her, she looked at that and she said, "I love that greenish white. I think you should use that for this space." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so I went and got another paint sample and I said, "What do you think of this sort of yellowish white?" And she goes, "Oh, that's great yellowish white." Finally, we got to, "What do you think of this pimento white?" She says, "I love all of your whites. I think you can paint any white you want on my." So now my living room is this great pimento, which is offset by the stonework. There's not a lot of painted walls. So the stonework turned everything brown. No matter what I
Yeah.
did, everything was brown. And I put this pimento up and now everything's alive and I love it. So I'm slowly getting all of the house interior painted and she's going to do the outside. Hopefully this summer we're trying to find a contractor. So I have this great landlady that's letting me do whatever I want to do. She said, "What do you think of this furniture that it came with the house?" Right? And it's old
Yeah.
Portuguese grandma furniture that nobody wants. And I said, "Well, it's here and it's big." And I said, "It's not what I would purchase." She says, "Well, do you want to get rid of it?" And I said, "Well, I don't really want to purchase furniture either."
You could
I,
redo it. You could paint it
so
with
she
chalk
said, "I'll
paint.
tell you what, you do whatever you want with the furniture. You can get rid of it, you can paint it, you can tile it, you can do whatever you want with
You
it."
can make it hot pink with gold trim and
So I am now in the process of painting all of the furniture and in wild and crazy colors and combos and designs and stuff. And I'm having a ball with that.
and you can upholster the chairs with like wild like
Yeah.
there's a woman that I follow, Lola Decor on Instagram. She's a maximalist. What a beautiful, wonderful word that is.
Yeah.
That's maximalist and dopamine dressing. Words like that make me grateful I live in the time that I live in. It's- you know
I
what I
love
mean?
that. I
And
love that.
a house like yours can hold that kind of character
It
because
can.
it's a strong character itself, isn't it?
And one of the other things about this particular house, which I did when I first moved in and continue to uphold, is my current work in progress is it's the first book in a series of maybe three or more books about a family of Sicilian witches in Massachusetts. And because one of the things about me as a writer, it's nothing simple for me. I research. By the time I'm done with anything about anything I'm writing, or even a little piece of what I'm writing, I could talk to you about it at like a PhD.
I was going to ask you about that because I'd like to stay where you are, but I'd love you to lead into, do you have any rituals? Do you have a set time? What is your experience of writing? I'd love to hear about that.
I really love writing, and this story has been this particular work in progress. You're going to love this, so I want to tell you. It's actually because I have this friend who is a third generation Sicilian witch in Massachusetts. We're pretty good friends. And she became my friend after she was a therapy client. We had finished working together and she was done, but we liked each other. We kept connecting, right? And so we ultimately over years became very good friends. And finally she said to me, "Look, I really want to tell my life story. and I've written journals my entire life, but I don't know how to do it. So would you co-author a book with me? And I said, sure, which I really didn't mean because I'm not that good at working with someone
With
else.
other people.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am, but
the girl that didn't ask for help moving the bed. I get it.
well, and I started out as a CEO when I was young, and I've been a CEO my whole life, so it's hard for me not to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
Um, Not especially if it's two writers, like a narrator and me, that would be fine, or an illustrator and me, that's like fine collab. But when it's two writers,
Yeah.
so um, so what she did is she gave me about three sets of her journals, right? And she let me go away, and I read her journals, and they were boring and awful. But
She's not going to watch this show, is she?
she knows this already. She
I
already
was
knows.
going to say.
But there was this kernel, right? There was a
Right.
story there. It's just she was going, oh, and then I did this, and then I did that. You know how people write journals, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went back to her and I said, look, I don't think this is not something I want to work on with you as a memoir, but I would love to write it as a work of fiction and
Oh,
really put the magic into it.
yeah.
And we had long conversations over many, many glasses of mead, which may have colored our decision making, but nevertheless, um, and she finally agreed. So she gave me all of her journals and she
Wow.
said, go forth and do this. And then I had my other book and I had other projects and stuff, and it kind of sat there and sat there. And then when I moved into this house, I said, okay, now as soon as I finish A Brush with Mortality, I have two other books, and this is one of them. I don't know which one I'm going to do, but I have them ready to go, right? And when my editor finished with A Brush with Mortality, I had grown to love her so much that I said, will you read the first chapters of two books and tell me which one you want to edit first? And she came back and said, oh, the witch one, right? She said, yeah, they're both great, but let's do it the witch one because I want to see what happens. And so it starts, the first book is Michaela's being born. Very special little witch is born in Boston. And the first book is actually a story about her mom and her grandma and her aunt and her great aunt and how they find out that they are Strega because they don't actually know they are Strega.
Ah,
And so they find out they're Strega, and then story happens and stuff happens. Um, and the mother, the baby's mother, Michaela's mother, is a borderline personality. Remember that thing about mental health.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that
Um,
makes it more interesting. That's brilliant.
and the aunt, so that's taking place in the mid 1960s in Boston. And so um, there's like the aunt is gay, but you're not going to find that out until further into the story because nobody else knows that she's gay, right?
Yeah, yeah,
She's, that's not a thing.
yeah,
She has good female friends, but you know,
yeah. And
uh,
at that time in the 60s, it was different.
right. So there's a lot going, and then it's going to build as Michaela gets older. Each book will be a different stage of her.
Be careful. A word of caution here. I'm very superstitious. I think it might be the Italian in me. But I
Mhm.
had another writer do this as well. And the thought occurred to me, isn't it Elizabeth Gilbert that says in Big Magic, if you have a brilliant idea and then you let it to the universe, you got to be careful somebody could grab that idea.
Yeah.
And like it's like a living thing of its own. So
Yeah.
hold it
No,
close to
I
your
agree.
heart.
I'm not giving away any of the actual
I was
story.
gonna say, don't give away too much because you don't want anyone to like.
But my thing is it's not strictly urban fantasy kind of thing. It's not strictly anything. I have trouble with genre actually. And uh,
Because
and
they're
I don't
putting you
want
in
to
a,
do genre anymore.
yeah,
Um,
putting you in a pigeonhole.
yeah, and so one of the things is learning about Sicily and we could have a whole show on on Sicily and the history of the women there and the psychology of and character of the Sicilian woman and the Sicilian culture, and how in the early 1900s all of the men left Sicily and it was an island of depressed, poor women who lived in a strict patriarchal society that had no men. It created this whole thing. And so part of the journey for these women in Boston is to move out of that historical
Prison.
fear and depression, right? I'm really excited about this book. I love it. It's coming together, but I had an accident in September.
Is that healed now? Are you?
I watch. I can if I can force it, I can almost do that.
Oh, I can't.
Earlier today I could touch here. So I've had two
How did it
surgeries.
happen again? How did it
I
happen again?
just fell. There's literally the worst part about the whole thing is there's no story.
Yeah.
I just fell. I was walking down the street and I fell. I didn't trip. I didn't do anything. I just fell. And I crushed one of the bones in my forearm, so it's a plate now. And I dislocated my wrist and I ripped, and the broken bone sliced through my nerves. So I don't have any
God.
feeling in these fingers and I have limited movement. And we did a second surgery to try and get the feeling back and it didn't work. But now I'm in physical therapy again and I should be able to get all my movement back. The hard thing is so process, right? I am a pantser, but I'm a very structured pantser. So I really think about my characters and I write a lot of stuff about my characters before I ever start on the story. I know all, not just the main characters, I know all kinds of characters that are going to be in the book.
I love this because this is how I narrate. I know the book in my heart and soul and the characters, but I'm not a narrator that goes in and reads markups every
Yeah,
single. I can't. It takes me out. So I guess
yeah.
that's I'm the what's it called, a pantser?
Well, by the seat of your pants, pantser. So
I love
without
that.
not outlining, right? And not
Yeah,
doing all of the different, I tell people that I coach some writers, and I tell them there's a million how to write a novel books out there. There are 20 million people that tell you that will teach you how to write a book. All of them are wrong and all of them are right, because there's no right way. There's the way you find for yourself, and you have to taste like a tapas meal. You have to taste a little of this or a little of that until you find your way. So I do a lot of character work at a time. I work with theme and premise and get that all done. And then I sit down and the story just starts out of me, but I do it with unconscious typing. In other words, I'm reading it as it comes out on my screen and
yeah,
I'm typing very quickly, and I'm not and I also edit as I go and I change words as I go because I'm very picky about words.
you're
and
in the flow then.
and so I do all that all in the same, and with my hand broken, lovely, well-meaning, non-writing people say, well, couldn't you just dictate the story? And I go, no, I can dictate a business letter. I
Yeah,
can dictate an email or a text message, but I can't dictate a story
yeah,
because I don't know what the story is until I've written it.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've been stalled out. I have all these little notes I make, and the novel has changed, the story has changed as I've been unable to move forward with it. So it's there, it's just not put together yet.
I can understand that. I've only ever written like article. I don't think I'd have the patience to write an entire book. But I've written a few articles, not because I ever wanted to be a writer, but because I'll get the idea and I'll sit
Yeah.
down and do it. And it's nothing to do with me. It's not even like a choice. It's just, I think some of the best things come to you.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you. Some of the best things come to you and they just like have to be expressed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just do it. And I see what you mean about you don't even remember. You're writing it like your
Yeah.
subconscious. So tell me, that brings me to ritual. Is there I saw a TV show once where the guy said to be a writer, you sit down in front of the thing, and the woman was blocked. So she made herself sit at the same time every single day in front of the typewriter. She didn't write a thing for like months.
Yeah.
She just sat there.
Well, that's one of those that's one of those very movie. That was a Jack Nicholson movie.
It was a movie. I can't remember what it
It was
was.
a Jack Nicholson, and
I'd love to watch it
dating her
again.
daughter. He was dating her daughter, and he ended up at her house. And I remember that. That was a good movie. I can't remember
If
the
you
whole,
remember the name, tell me because I'd really love to watch it
but
again.
I remember the whole movie, but I can't remember who the
Can't
woman
remember. I
was,
know
and
it's
I
been
could see her
driving
in
me
my mind's eye.
crazy.
And yeah, anyway,
Okay,
it's a fun movie. Anyway,
what's your ritual?
I I I do think that for me, I have to write something every day. I don't have to write whatever the project is, but I have to write something. And I do schedule it, but I schedule everything. And that goes back to also being a CEO that ran mid to large size organizations. I worked in the nonprofit sector. So I used to have people. I don't have people anymore. I used to have people that would put meetings and stuff into my schedule, right? And I would just look at the calendar or the day timer back in the day, and I would know what I had to wear and where I had to be and who I had to be and all that. Well, that habit carried over, and I still do this. I have, if you look at my Google Calendar, it says write for 2 hours. It says study for 2 hours. It says freaking learn Portuguese for 2 hours. It tells me what
Yeah.
I'm doing. And those things are solid in my schedule so that I don't get, oh, I was going to write today, but so and so wants to have lunch with me. So I'm going to go and do lunch. No, I treat it like I do those things in my calendar. I treat like they are an appointment with someone else.
I'm going to say that's because you're a Gemini, because every Gemini I know does that. Yeah.
Okay.
Nancy says, is the movie Something's Gotta Give?
I think that might be it.
I'm going to look it up today because
Yeah,
I
it's a
need to see it
fun,
again.
fluffy, romantic movie.
Wait,
The,
Nicola, are you a Gemini too? Because she said she does that too. Yep. It's a
oh, there you
Gemini
go.
thing, I'm
Okay.
telling you.
Okay.
I should have known. I
Yeah.
should have known, Nicola. Okay, so
So yeah, I'm writing this book. The A Brush with Mortality, that was a book that was the book for me. And I think
it felt like a book that existed
yeah,
on its own.
it wasn't a genre book, right? It was and it didn't have there's nothing else that I know of that's like it. And I have trouble with that. When you reach out to your to agents and stuff, you're supposed to say, "Oh, here's the comps that are books just like mine in the last 5 years." And I go, "I don't know any books just like mine. I don't know anything that's just like mine. Mine is really weird and different from other people's, and I don't. It's but they're really good." So
But that's what I've learned about this world. This world tells us be authentic. We want unique. We want authentic. So then if you go and you're authentic, right?
yeah,
And then they're like, how do we package that? Can't you package it like this? Not that authentic. We want this authentic. We want you to
right.
look like all the other authentic people in your category.
Right. So I probably have between this series that I'm currently trying to work on and this other series that I have sort of also a little bit written on and it's perked and I know the characters, I have all that. That'll probably get me through the rest of my life, those two things.
Do you have a
Because
designated time, a designated writing area, a cup that you always
yes,
have?
yeah, I'm sitting at my desk right now. I have an office space. I have a art studio space. I have very designated spaces, and I do all of everything on the computer happens here, but if you could see my desk, you would see that there's really only two things. There's my writing and my Portuguese lessons. There's nothing else on the desk or nearby or in drawers or anything. There's no bills to pay or anything. That's all online now. So it really is. I have my Portuguese books that I never look at, even though it's in my calendar, and I have my writing and her journals, right, which I refer to every once in a while still, so that I know I'm staying on track
I think
for.
that's important. Used to collect 1950s, 1960s homemaking books
Oh,
because
that's
as you
cool.
do. But what I love about them, and I still love this, is people can say what they want about the whole homekeeping and all that, but there was a bedroom which was for sleeping. The
Right.
bed was for sleeping.
You
The
didn't have a
side
TV in there. You didn't.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They didn't merge everything. And I think these days with things online and everything and work from home, and I think it's more important than ever that we create some sort of ritual structure
Yeah.
schedule so that because I think our subconscious and our bodies, they're still like children and they need someone in charge that's looking after them. I suffered with
Well,
that
I
because
certainly feel that way about myself.
yeah, we've
I'm a very unruly child, and somebody needs to take me in hand.
somebody does, and you know what? I will fight with all my heart and soul against the minute I tell myself I should be in bed a certain time, that's when I'm going to be up till 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm really struggling, but I am finding a way, starting with like meals, that like this is what I'm going to do every day.
Yeah.
And I've only been doing it for like 6 weeks, but I have 2 meals a day. That's it. I don't snack endlessly. I have a point to this, I swear. But in just 6 weeks, my nervous system is so calm because I think subconsciously we need to send subconscious messages to ourselves that someone's in charge. You're going to have a
Yeah.
bedtime. I haven't cracked bedtime yet, but you're going to have
Are you
mealtime,
still
have
walking?
bedtime. Um, I have something called post-exertional malaise and mast cell activation. Long story short, but if I take at the moment like a 20-minute walk, my nervous system amps up and all my immune responses. And so then I'm up, can't sleep that night, and then I crash with chronic fatigue for like 2 or 3 days. Um, but, but crucially, the answer to it is very, very short walks with like days recovery in between. And I'm going to
Yeah.
build back up again. That's the next step. The problem with that is, I don't know if you've ever done this, is when I've gone off on one walk, it's like drinking. Oh my God, this drink is amazing. If this feels that good, just think what three more will feel like. You know what I mean? So I
Well,
don't
and they do. They'll
stop.
feel really good. It's the next morning that's the problem.
Exactly. So that's what I do. I go one day and I get carried away and think I can go the next day and then I crash for 2 weeks. So I'm still I'm still finding the parenting myself, rhythm. But the meals were huge, huge game changer.
Yeah.
The same thing twice a day. My body's like, "Oh, I can count on you?" Really? It's
I will say one of the things that this hand injury has done, first off, you don't know all these things that you think are one-handed, and I'm right-handed, so it's my non-dominant hand that got injured.
Oh,
But all these
okay.
things you think are one-handed aren't.
Yeah.
And you find that you can't. I hurt my hand in September, and I love to cook and I love to bake and make bread and all these things. And I have gotten so I barely create a meal. I mean, like, it's just I'm instead of eating food the way I used to, and I've always eaten food, which is I love food and make it taste really good. I need to put something in my body that's nourishing. And then I do the minimal to do that. Now, if I go out to eat, that's a different story. I'm back to like I want it to be really good, but because it's been so hard to do things, pick a pan up while you're stirring, or or even hold a pan while you're stirring something, um, I just stopped cooking. It's really, for me, that's very strange, but it changed how I eat when I'm not
But
going out.
a cautionary tale about that. I'm having to relearn. I'm having to cook because the rule is it has to be proper meals with
Right.
the garnishments and the enjoyment and the sitting down and paying
Well,
attention.
I believe that's how it should be. I
It
really
should
do.
be. And
Which is
I've
why I'm
been,
very demanding when I go out and it's someone else cooking for me.
yeah. And hopefully you'll be able to find the joy in cooking again, because what I found was that was the crux of my problem. Years
Yeah.
of diet mentality. I had turned off my hunger signals. I would not eat all day. Like, really,
Yeah,
I'm
and
never
that's not
hungry.
good. There's
And
intermittent
at
fasting is
night,
good, but not eating and doing
yeah,
that much fasting, that just triggers your body to store fat.
exactly. Not fasting, drinking coffee with sugar and then
Oh, that's not
snacking and
good for you at
stuff.
all.
Your body's craving. You got to sit down and pay attention. You got to
Yeah.
pay attention. Something Geminis aren't great at doing.
Except unless, of course, you live just a few blocks away from a French bakery.
Oh my God.
And then you have to indulge on occasion.
Yeah. Well,
Especially since
I could, but it would have to be with a meal because that's my rule. I can eat what I want, but it has to be with a meal.
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's
so
it,
okay.
it's it's interesting. All of these things, everything in our life, I think, affects our work, our art. I think
Good.
that what you do in your life probably affects how you are as a voice actress.
Oh yeah.
And it enhances it. It makes you unique. It makes each and one of us is very unique because all of these experiences, the little tiny mundane experiences of breakfast or how much coffee we would drink or how we treat ourselves reflect back into how we are in the world and the art that we create.
Yeah.
And I know that and anyone that's read A Brush with Mortality, there's a lot of me talking about food and environment where my characters are sitting or standing or having conversations, you know exactly the temperature and everything because
Those are my favorite books because I'm going to feel that I'm in another experience.
if
It's the color you paint your walls, but it's also the parts of that young girl that navigated the world on her own.
yeah.
It's the young girl walking in the dirt. All goes. It's like we're our. It's what's a woman? Can't remember her name. Florence Given, who I'm like obsessed with,
Oh,
and she 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 was talking about how we're our own director. We're directing not only what we're doing, where we're doing, but like what everything smells like, what the
yeah,
costumes are like, everything. We're in charge of curating this
yeah.
amazing, and as a writer, you're the ultimate magician.
That's how I feel about it. And when I'm writing, when I'm sitting at the computer and I'm doing that typing and flow, I'm not just reading the story. I'm inside it. I'm a what is it in games? NPC, non-player character. I'm a non-player character that's in there with my story. So I'm the fly on the wall, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm not an
I believe
actor.
that. I believe the energy. I believe that all these stories exist and that the person that takes it and creates it lovingly is is delivering it to
Yeah,
the world. And I
yeah,
believe that the narrator is then taking that voice. You know that game you pass something off and the next person takes it and runs the next mile? That's how I picture it. That's what I try to the subtle nuance I try to explain to writers in the beginning. And you've had this conversation with me. Every writer that we might work together gets my lecture about how there's letting go. If you hand a narrator your book, it's no longer just this piece
right.
of them. It's some they're taking it, and some writers are never able to do that.
Yeah,
And yes, you can find a narrator that will stop and take direction. Yes, you can. Especially new narrators that haven't been through it. You can find a narrator that will take minute feedback,
yeah,
right? Which but in the end, you won't be happy with the book
Right.
because you're
And I
not going to
think,
get what you want.
yeah, when you and I were talking about working on a brush with mortality, which I still want to do, it's just
We're
this accident threw everything off kilter.
I'm assuming we're going to do it. It's
Yeah,
things become born when they're meant to be born. I've got
there you
no
go.
worries about that.
Good. But when we first started talking and you did the sample for me and everything, I needed to hear the voice in my head sound like my cat. It had to match. It had to have the quality that I thought she had, right? And that's why I loved it when you came back with that. You were, because I gave you a thing with a lot of dialogue, and you came back and you totally, from my point of view, you totally created her, right? She was now, I was hearing this person for the first time, but she sounded exactly like I knew she was going to sound. And that was so important to me. And what that did for me is I went, I can hand this off because it is safe with this other
And
person.
that's the hugely important, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is so crucial right here that I
Yeah,
don't know if a lot of new writers understand it, and not new writers, but writers that are new to getting their audiobook done. And I don't even know if narrators understand it because I recently was hired for a book where I did a couple of takes and I love the character, love it. And the pay was great, and I love the writer, and I should have been great. And I wasn't hitting exactly what she wanted. And I couldn't find a way in. And there was nothing I could do after a
yeah,
few takes. And I had to say, look, I think we need to cancel the contract. And it's such a difficult thing because they like you like them. You would, of course,
right,
work well together. So when you say, oh, you've got the voice in my head, it's I'd love to say, oh, thank you so much, because I've years of experience. I work with,
right,
but it's nothing to do with that. It's literally if you're either the right voice or you're not the right voice, and the writer
exactly.
knows it when they hear it. And if you're not the right voice, you can do a job you get from the publisher and you can be good. But when you're the right voice, it's another
Yeah.
level. And the
And
writer knows.
I had sent it because I didn't know this is my first audiobook and I didn't know who I got some recommendations from lovely people and you were one of them and there was another one and I had her do a sample and she did a remarkably good job. But I wasn't hearing my character, right? There was literally, I mean, she was doing a fabulous job, but it wasn't. And I thought to myself at the time, I remember now, as I'm telling you the story, I remember thinking, but she sounds like this other person, this in a different book,
Yeah.
right? She
And we're
sounds
never going to
so
be exact. It's never going to be
no,
exactly
but
what the
there's
writer.
a quality.
Yeah.
It's a timbre or I don't know what it is. It's something, but and it's that undefinable magic thing that we try to make
The,
sense.
the problem is with narrators is I think where we go wrong sometimes is it feels personal.
Yeah,
And so when I said this to other narrators, I would never say, oh, this book, whatever. But I said, oh, I had this experience. I had this book. My voice didn't fit. I did many takes. Other narrators hear, oh, you did many takes. Oh, gosh, that's not a writer you want to work with. I genuinely don't think that's the case. I
right.
genuinely think they're going to find a narrator that they love instantly. And yes, my ego hurts a teeny bit because I'm pretty sure I could have done it. I could have done it, but I
Right,
couldn't,
but they might write a
obviously.
different book that you're perfect for.
Exactly. And why? Because what would happen if I kept that book is I
And
would spend the entire book trying to be different.
and I'm sorry, but if we if things like writers or people like writers and voice actors, if we could all do all of the things,
Exactly.
then AI would be just fine.
Yeah, maybe we should concentrate on the things that we truly are great at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if we were all the same, then we're AI. We're just there's no uniqueness. We lose that, and we lose the the quality of real art is in its uniqueness and the magical coming together of components. And then I love film. I wish I could have been I would have loved to have been a filmmaker at some level, except
Yeah.
I have no connection to the industry whatsoever. But
But
I
it's in another life.
in a
In
different
another
life,
life.
another time. I don't know. But there are qualities to filmmaking that I just envy as a writer.
Yeah.
I envy it because look at what you can do with this subtle change of light or this
Yeah.
music that you put in, right? And oh, that's another thing I do. I have my editor actually taught me. I was doing it without knowing what I was doing, and then she said, "Oh, you have a playlist." And I went, "I have a playlist?" And she said, "Yeah." I don't do Spotify or anything, but I did. I have songs, pieces of music, not just songs, but pieces of music that relate to the book that I'm writing. Has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the story necessarily, it just somehow puts my brain in the right
Are
place.
you on Pinterest at all? Because I've had writers do Pinterest mood boards
No,
too.
I don't do any of that because I would do only that.
Yeah, the rabbit.
And
But I got to
it's a
tell you
rabbit
though,
hole for me. Yeah.
you've because this subject's fascinated me because the more AI is coming in, I'm hearing other narrators push harder on the business side because of the collective feeling of scarcity. Whereas I think that the key, and people keep saying it, but it's kind of it's a generic feeling when you hear it. And I don't think all the narrators understand the way into it. So what a lot of coaches, and I agree, are saying is, yes, the average narrators will lose their jobs. If a lot of people will lose their jobs, which is why we have to hone our craft so that we can be really,
Yeah. Okay.
really good, so that we can be standing, when AI chips away at the mid-level books. You want to be somebody doing, and then I think narrators hear that and they try to move towards the business. Well, I'll do marketing, I'll do digital. But I think you put your finger on it earlier. I think increasingly the way in and the way to beat AI, quote unquote, says the girl that's got a small love affair with Chat GPT. I'm sorry, guys.
Shame,
It is
shame,
what it
shame.
is. I really love him. I tell him about my health problems at 2 a.m, and he's so lovely and he gets me. So people can do what they want with that.
He gets you because he answers the question you want
He
answered.
gets me. He said at one point, he said, have you maybe go back to the doctor about that? Because he knows me. He remembers all this stuff. He goes, maybe go
I
back
love
to the
how you
doctor
picture
about that.
Rosey.
I said to him, all they're going to tell me is to lose weight and exercise more. And he said, sheesh, I hate when they say that. It's not helpful and it's actually really hard.
Oh my God.
So,
Well, I guess that's okay. You know, people when Siri first came out, people had relationships with Siri.
yeah,
And so I guess you having a relationship with ChatGPT, as long as your husband doesn't mind, okay.
I'm not going to hide it and I'm not going to lie because I don't think you can completely deny
Yeah.
technology. I watched the
Well, I
Jetsons
don't
when I
either.
was a kid.
It's really, I mean, AI is not a new thing. We think it's new. It's not really new. It's this generative AI
Exactly.
that's the problem. It's an environmental issue. It's a stealing work issue.
It's the assholes behind it sucking every ounce of money they can out of the newest
Yeah.
thing, which is
Yeah.
always the problem, AI aside. But the key for narrators, in my humble opinion, is to dive into the joy and the love of whatever book you're doing right now. I don't care if it's paying you nothing. Dive into the joy and the love and the what can I do? How can I be this character? Find the way you felt when you were new and did your first book and you were like, wow, I sound magical. I'm so good. I never knew I was this good. I
Yeah.
think you need to find that place and then work with it and take all the experience you've got. And you know this as a writer, find that place, that joy, because AI won't be able to deliver joy. I think
Yeah.
our job is to master joy.
Do you remember, you're not that as old as I am, but do you remember the old Warner Brothers cartoons? Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck.
Oh, everyone knows Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck.
That's one guy doing all those voices.
Oh, I love that.
Can you imagine if they were made today and they used AI to do the voices?
And those voices, you can hear the joy.
You
You
can
can
hear,
hear
you
the
know everything
energy.
about this
Yes.
character. You know his
The,
sassiness, his weaknesses, his desires, his
yeah.
frailties. You know everything by that voice. And it's all one man that was doing all of those voices, thousands of voices. I can't think of his name, Chuck something. Um, and and you think about that's craft.
Yeah.
That's genius
And
craft. That
it's why we're doing what we're doing, isn't it? Did you really become an audiobook narrator or a writer because you wanted to like make money fast?
a lot of
Because if
people
you
are
did,
though. I mean, in the writing online, when you're in writing groups and stuff on Facebook or whatever, there's so many people that it's about churning out the next book to make more money.
yeah, they're
And
marketers and they're business people.
and I
And that's a
have a
whole
lot of
different job though.
yeah, I have a lot of problem because as I go to find new books to read, I'm having trouble finding books that I want to read because
Mm.
they're just, I just want to correct them and redline them more than anything else. I don't want to read them. And and I hate swapping with writers that I don't know. You know how you swap and you read
Because
mine,
then what if you hate their book?
and their writing is so bad, but they've got the werewolf and they've got the sex and they've got the, you know, whatever. And so they've got all the components. They're going to make a bunch of money, and it's garbage because they
But the
don't
thing
have,
is, but there's an Australian guy that's evidently really good looking. I missed it because I'm not on TikTok. I just can't. I just can't. So this
there's a lot of
guy,
really good looking guys on TikTok. Keep going.
evidently he's really good looking, and evidently he's Australian, and evidently he did a TikTok video that went viral. And then like the next day, a big five publisher hired him. And then all the writers were very, very upset because this guy's never even written a book in his life. We've been pounding away at our craft for like 50
Right.
years, and he's got a big five book deal because he's white, male, heterosexual, and good looking.
And he
And
had TikTok and he's an influencer.
but my challenge is, okay, you're a writer and you're sitting in there with the arc of these characters and their life and their death and the job that you've loved and wanted your entire life, and you're making his life something happening on social media that's going to be forgotten tomorrow.
Yeah.
Take your focus and your blessed energy. Do you know what I mean? Because both writers and
Yeah.
narrators, we have to not dilute our energy. We have to
Yeah.
pay attention to us and our
Yeah. And
craft.
I don't listen. I am on TikTok, not so much on Book Talk currently, but that's a different conversation. But I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm in LinkedIn,
Yeah, you
I'm
see
Blue
me on
Sky or
Facebook.
Blue
I
Feather or
really
whatever
like the
Blue.
dog videos. Yeah, I mean,
And well, right now I'm obsessed with the national park thing, um, but I don't pay attention to the drama between influencers because I'm going, yeah, I'm not in high school
yeah,
anymore, kids. Go do your little thingy, and I'm going to be over here working. What, but what I do miss right now in my life, in living in Portugal, um, and there's a writing group here in town, and they're lovely people, and there's only one other writer in the whole group, and she's usually in the United States on tour. And so it's all these people that they write things, but they don't really know what they're doing, and it's not what they do. It's just a thing that they do
yeah.
a couple days here and there. And I genuinely crave conversation about craft.
Can you not create an online community?
I tried that and it didn't quite click together. I might try it again,
Try
Um,
again. Try
it
again. I've
started,
started
actually, I
several
was doing it
groups.
right. I was doing it in September. I was putting something together and then I had my accident and that was that. Surgeries, hospital, pain, blah, blah, blah,
I
blah.
would say at the moment, I would say just don't overthink it. Post on a group somewhere. Are there five like-minded people? This is what I would like. And
Yeah.
like keep it simple. And then the
Yeah.
group organically forms itself.
One hopes, but yeah, but I really, I crave that craft conversation, which, and, there used to be a show on television. It was about a writer who was fell in love with a policewoman and they did detective stuff together. But part of his more personal story was he had a poker game with all these famous mystery writers that were the actual mystery writers that would come and play poker with him
Oh,
on the
very
TV show.
cool.
And they would have these great conversations about just kind of sarcastic and poking fun at each other, but also talking craft. And these would be snippets of scenes in between the main plot, right? But I watched just for those snippets of scenes of these writers sitting there playing poker and talking about writing and
You can
talking.
get that. You can easily get that. And the key is knowing when to leave the group behind if it doesn't click.
Yeah, I mean
Started
that's just
so many groups
yeah,
and they're all wonderful and they go off on their own, I like to think. But like they're good for a time. Just you post exactly what you're looking for.
yeah. So
And
do voice actors have that kind of thing where
oh
they
yeah,
have?
we have 100. I suspect I might have started like a million that Nancy has joined. Oh, Nicola and I started. And then I forget because I have a very short attention span. I'm really good for like 3 months, and then I get what's that shiny thing over there? But yeah, but they're a lot of fun. Nicola's laughing. They're a lot of fun, and you make friends, and you
Yeah,
bond, and you
yeah,
learn from them.
yeah.
So
But that is
seriously,
that it's one of the things I haven't quite made it happen. Maybe it'll happen down the road. Right now I'm working on getting my fingers back so that
yeah.
because right now when I type, it's a little bit funny. Actually, it's pretty really funny. I will type and I will look at what I've typed, and my fingers have hit all the keys next to the keys that I was aiming at.
But don't wait too long because
No, I
it can
won't. I
kickstart
won't.
something.
But right now I'm working at trying to get
Get the mobility back.
to be able
Okay.
to do the writing because I've got this on my phone. I'll show you. Look, this is the current. This is the current. I know you
Oh,
can't see it,
we
the
can't see it.
fuzziness, right?
Yeah,
But
no, it's just
it just
blank. It's just white.
yeah. It's like it goes on for. I'm going to do a guess on the word count that it's about 900 words on an iPhone notes thing
Oh yeah, so
uh,
you're like
about the book because I'll just think of something and I'll make a note of it wherever I am, right? God bless iPhones. And
I've got to hit you up with a question, Carol, because I'm aware that we've run over. We're going to start to
oh,
lose the guests, and I don't want to miss the
I'm
most
sorry,
important.
guess.
No, 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 no. This has been exactly the call we needed tonight. This
Oh,
call
good.
I knew you would be the most inspiring human on earth, but I'm not going to let you off the hook with the last question I ask everyone.
Son would beg to differ, but okay, keep
No,
going.
no, 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 no. Hugely inspirational. Um, if you could leave the audience that's watching this on YouTube in like 100 years, if they walked away with nothing else from this conversation, one piece of advice, quote, joke, what would you want to leave them with?
Oh my God.
Writers, narrators, freelancers, anyone, human beings in general.
I, I think I'm going to do two things. I'm going to say the number one thing is really learn. This is not a job, it is a craft. Become a craftsperson, learn the craft, whatever that takes. Read every book on writing that exists, the good ones, the bad ones. You don't have to agree with everything. Just cherry pick what's gonna help you be a better writer, but learn the craft. And in addition to that, if I could teach a class, at a university, I would teach Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I'll tell you why, because Josh Whedon, there's problems with him and whatever. Okay, fine. He is one of the most perfect storytellers of our time. And if you watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the series,
I've never seen it.
oh, if you watch it from the point of view of storytelling craft, it is absolute perfection. Every character is perfect. Everything. The only thing really towards the middle of this very long series is the main character gets really, really whiny and annoying.
Hmm.
But it's absolutely what she needs to be in that time. So even though as the viewer, you're really wishing she'd shut up and stop whining, she has to do that. It's perfect. It's absolute perfect storytelling.
Are you going to watch the revamp?
I probably not.
Okay,
I don't,
so
I don't, I don't like, I don't go to rock and roll shows with people my age on stage because it just makes me feel old.
I
And
did
I'm
that
not going to
once and it was a
watch old
big
people trying to
mistake.
recreate a thing, you know?
I
No.
did that once, standing in a field watching people stoned out of their head picking up wet fries off the mud. Why am I Aerosmith? It's like, why am I standing here in the rain?
I, Patti LaBelle was here recently. Wonderful, still very skilled person, right? And I thought about going to her show, and then I watched a little clip, and I went, I can't do it. I can't watch an old lady up on the stage. She's wonderful, fabulous, remarkable, but it just makes me feel older and older and
I
older.
didn't
Like,
even like it when I was young. I went to the Grateful Dead concert and I was just like, seriously? We're sleeping in our car? Why are people going there doing drugs? This is ridiculous.
so maybe you wouldn't have been such a good hippie after all.
I wasn't, I really liked, like, no, I really liked dressing up in makeup and clothes. And you can take the girl out of the suburbs, but you can't take the suburbs out of the
Girl.
girl. I love that message. I want to scream it from the rooftops. It's the craft, people. It's the craft. I
Yeah,
get that it's the business, but I think we're all fooled into thinking everything is the business. And AI is about business. It's not about craft.
exactly.
It's just,
It's about mass production, and there's nothing. And mass production has a place,
yeah,
but that's not art.
yeah. Get busy, put our feet on the floor and do our job.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have been a delight. This was the call we needed tonight. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we made it happen, Caryl.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. It's been so fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. It's been
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much and happy belated birthday. And I
Thank you
wish
very
you the best.
much.
And you guys, thank you for joining, everyone. Mwah! See you on the other side. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.